question and answer at the end as well. Good evening, I'm Erica Sizemore with Keller Williams. This is Sylvain Dufour, he's my business partner. We work in the Raleigh office here at Keller Williams. Keller Williams is one of the, if not the largest real estate firm in the world. We're happy to be representing them. We are going to tell you a little bit about choosing a real estate agent and the buying process, the first-time home buyer process. And then I know Virginia is going to give us lots of information about what loan programs are available and how Raleigh Mortgage can help you this evening. So we'll kind of get right into it, and then hopefully have handled a lot of your questions just on the front end, but we look forward to hearing feedback as we get further along. Let's see here, Ashley, there we go. Okay, so this is myself and Sylvan, and when we look great in this picture, sorry, our we were trying to virtual background this so we looked a lot more attractive, and it's our dated office, but we're glad to be here. That's our contact information and our business card, if you will call it that. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the buying process. First is easy stuff, what to know. You've already taken the first step in deciding that you'd like to explore purchasing. I don't know what just happened there. There we go. And we're going to go over a few key points, some fears versus facts about what to know about buying, realities of the market, what it looks like today, some guideposts in the process, the steps that you take, and then give you some guidance about what to know when selecting a realtor. And how to move those next steps forward with Virginia. Let's see. Few fear versus facts questions we get often. I can't afford to buy a home right now, as an example. Until you do the math, we don't know. We can help you in that regard. Whoop, I don't know what's going on here. It keeps moving back and forth. My apologies, everybody. The keyboard. How do I get it? Ashley. Oh. I can't get it to go backwards, Ashley. Oh, there it is. Hold on. I don't know what's going on. How do I go back? Sorry, guys. Having some difficulty. Ashley, did you do that? Thank you. I'll give you a little nod or something since we're having a little difficulty. So until you do the math, you don't know. We can obviously help with that. We get questions from buyers and sellers all the time about moving on to their next step and what the math looks like. But obviously, there needs to be pen to paper. I should wait until the market gets better. The reality is there's never a bad time to buy real estate. Depends on what the right time is for you, what you have going on in your life. Here's a good one. I can't afford to buy my dream home. The reality is you're closer to buying your dream home when you buy your first home. Most people don't buy their first home as their dream home. The average person buys a home and sells it every 7 to 10 years. So granted, I don't know everyone's ages in this group, but I can almost guarantee you're probably going to have more than one. Let's see, I should wait until I'm certain about my domestic future. We're going to go over a couple of reasons why you might hold off, but you don't have to wait until you're in a particular lot in life to do that, be it married or partnered, ready to have children, things like that. I don't have the money for a down payment. That's going to be a great one for Virginia. She's going to talk all about some down payment options. I can't afford to buy a home because my credit isn't very good. There are great things that the mortgage brokers we work with, like Virginia, can tell you to give you the insight to tick that credit score up. And there's different programs for different credit scores. So that's good to know. Buying a home seems way too complicated. That's why we're here. That's why a real estate professional that you work with is going to help uncomplicate it for you and make it as easy and enjoyable as possible. I should pay off student debt loan before buying a home. Not necessarily. I had a client this year who just was out of school, his physical therapist, and we sat down, reviewed all his numbers, and I told him not to pay that loan off because the loan debt ratio for what he was paying per month would not negatively impact his purchasing power, and it was going to take money out of his pocket for his down payment. So we waited on that. So having those conversations and digging in is really important to the process. And those are just some of those. We'll move on, Ashley. Thank you. Here's some really good reasons when to hold off buying. If you're moving immediately, and this is primary residence, typically a good rule of thumb is if you think you're going to be somewhere at least 2 years, 2 years for the average person is reasonable. It's also near enough that you might know more about your future and where you're headed, career path-wise or moving to family. So 2 years or less, maybe we wait. Job security or new company, changing jobs can impact your, getting the mortgage. And then obviously, if you feel like you're in a secure position, one where you have some history of that earning, a year or 2 years, things like that. If you're a temp employee, you can get mortgages, just a little bit different on running through the underwriting. Again, these are Virginia questions. We just know a little bit about all this stuff. Financial credit score, down payments. We talked about that. You could hold off. You might save a little more money. Doesn't mean you can't buy. These are just things maybe to consider holding off. Sometimes people say they do it to avoid being house poor. Obviously we don't want anyone to be house poor. A good ratio is about 22% for the affordability there on your earnings, but these are reasons why you might hold off. In the short-term ownership, again, if you think you're going to be moving and you don't have time to gain equity or appreciation. But for those that do, it's a great investment. This sounds like such a paltry amount of money, $15,000, but I'm sure there's some parents out there among the audience that bought a house for $15,000 some years ago. My folks certainly did way back when. And as it appreciates, it goes up. And these are just some little arbitrary examples. Some reasons why you might buy now. Interest rates, although they're higher than they have been, they're still historically on the lower side, and you get deductible interest on your loan payment interest rate paid every year. Your long-term investment grows. Historically, real estate appreciates at about 4.4% over the course of time. And usually they don't have long withstanding downturns where there's depreciation of the value, and you're constantly building that equity up and paying the debt down in those payments. And then pride of ownership, stability, security, it's not an apartment, you can do what you want to it, and things of that nature, and it builds wealth, and there's the tax benefits. So Ben's going to explain the next slide here.
Yes, because it's a very complicated one.
Very complicated.
So that's a question we get a lot, should I buy or rent? And let's take just a concrete example. You buy a house for $250,000, your mortgage would be $1,200, for example. So if you do the average appreciation, about 4% a year, which actually historically was 4.4, your house would be worth $810,000 after 30 years. Now, if you were to rent, you would pay the same thing, $1,200 a month, and you would owe absolutely nothing. And you actually would have paid about $450,000 in rent for those 30 years. So if you compare the two, there is pretty much a $1.2 million difference over 30 years based on this scenario. Next. So that's the most recent stats from September on our market in the triangle. Median home price now at around $400,000. We all talked about the interest rate, a bit higher, but still within this range. 6, 7, you find some. Even so, the market is slightly shifting. It's still a seller's market. By seller markets, we mean 1.9 months of supply, meaning if we would have no new listing on the market, in less than 2 months, everything would be sold. To give you an idea, a balanced market is usually 5 to 6 months of supply. Growth in the area, extremely strong, almost 14% from year to year. Less listing recently, 15%, so which keep the market very strong. We already have low inventory, and it's not getting better right now.
Great. Thank you, Sylvan. So a basic 10-step process to ownership. You decide to buy, maybe decide today to kick tires and then move forward, or maybe have a conversation about whether or not it's the right time to do so. Choose a real estate professional to work with and hopefully be your shepherd through the process. Talk to a lender and secure financing. Those are types of things we're obviously talking about today. Then you identify your criteria. We ultimately find you an amazing home. You make an offer, you perform due diligence, which we'll touch on in a minute about what that is, and you close. That means you're recorded. We are at the city, the county level, and they say, yep, now you own that home, and you move in and protect your investment and enjoy it. Let's see. Your team through the process when you buy, your real estate advisor, your agent, the seller's agent, not thought very often as one of your team members, but they are. They're on the seller side of the transaction, and they are hopefully working in the interest of their seller, but also ultimately to get us to be able to secure the property for you. I always say the best deal is one where both parties leave a little bit on the table and they're working on their end and we're working on ours. The lender, your appraiser, that's who values the property so that we know that the loan will be able to be secured with the bank. An inspector who reviews the property and tells us if there's anything to be concerned with, maybe dates the ages of the systems, things of that nature. Contractors potentially are a part of our team. That's who maybe helps us if there's something on the inspection that is not to our liking and we need to get it handled. Closing coordinator, that's someone that does the paperwork and the administrative side of the transaction, and our title and escrow agent. And title and escrow agent simply protects the asset that you buy from potentially having someone else have a right to it, as in the tax records or some sort of note or lien in the past. And that's very critical as well. I love this quote, trust and integrity are precious resources, easily squandered and hard to regain. And I think it's a great transition to some things about how to choose a real estate agent and some guideposts for that. So on the next slide, we've got a list of them. And obviously these are some things you might ask questions or just think about as you interview someone. I love this example. Didn't Aunt Louise get licensed recently? Unfortunately, buying and selling is not a time to just throw your friend a bone. It's an impactful transaction with little room for mistake. And especially during a market shift and times of stress, you need to be more discerning about the people you hire. The result, like anything, is a flight to quality, and there's a wide chasm between having information and being an expert. Things that we do that a computer can't do is explain why a home may go up or down, flatline when and how to fix it up, or better position it for the market. Your real estate broker represents a real-time, complex analysis of what you're looking at in purchasing your home or selling. And it's often challenging, it's emotional, and there are obviously issues that sometimes come up during the process. So some things to look at when you choose who is in, oh, I'm sorry, Ashley, that was my backstory. Let's see, where do we go? There we are. Who is intrinsically motivated by the meaningfulness of their work and places client interest ahead of them? One very, very good trait for all real estate professionals you might interview. One who will educate you about the market, analyze your needs. Super important if they're insightful in that regard and can help you guide you to what the right property may be for you. One who's intimately familiar with the local market. They live there, they breathe it, they eat at the restaurant that you eat at down the street. That's important. Not somebody, I hate to say, in Greensboro, we're licensed in the state of North Carolina and I can sell and buy everywhere, but I wouldn't, because it's not going to be as helpful to a friend of mine out in Charlotte, because I don't know about South Park. I don't know about all those neighborhoods intimately. One who will steer you to homes and provide you guidance to support your goals. You shouldn't be the only one looking for houses for you. I know we have the internet and it's easy to peruse every day, but they know a lot of stuff that you don't. And there's sometimes properties that you won't see online that we know about. One who will coordinate with those other professionals we discussed, the inspectors, the contractors, is an additional service that should be provided by your real estate professional. Always feel free to ask for references and testimonials. It is not often done, but you should be able to get another client they worked with and be able to call them on the phone and ask how their experience went. request sales history and statistics to reflect their ability to serve you as their expert. How many times have they done this? And one who also choose a person that has the confidence and experience to solve any problem that arises, and you feel like will execute and negotiate well on your behalf. Excuse me, I lost my words. All right, thanks, Ashley. Sorry about that. Next slide. All right. This is just a little example, what you see, what your agencies, you know, we go in a lot of properties, so we have a different comparative. We're looking at things in the future. You're looking at things now. So something that you might say is, does it have the right space and layout for you right now? And then we might think, does the space and layout compare to others? Or what will it mean in the future when you go to sell it as far as the resale value, that layout? Does it offer value to me? Or does it offer value in relation to other homes? Is it a location that's convenient? Of course. Will the location hold its value? Does it have features and amenities I like? Does it show signs of major mainstream maintenance or structural concerns? We look at a lot of homes so we can see the difference. You may be seeing a pretty light fixture on a wall, and we're looking down below for cracks and, you know, water and stains and other things. And when you see as many homes as you may, they start to blur together. It's our job to remember all those nuances and differences. Let's see. And a little bit about making an offer, just some main points. Price. An offer should reflect market value ultimately, and your real estate professional helps guide you on what that should look like. The terms, there are some basic categories. Terms could include when you would close, if that's in 30 days or 45 days. If you're going to have inspections, for example, a contingency that your offer is conditional on an inspection of some sort, or your lender's approval of the purchase of the property. So those are three of the key portions of the offer. And what we are wanted to announce today, this is new, nobody has been introduced to this yet, is we have now come up with a partnership with the Alumni Association, which we want to give back and pay it forward. Any alumni and affiliate of NC State that comes to work with our partnership through that introduction will give back $500 to the association. We feel like you all support the university, and we want to support the university too. So everybody that comes through will have $500 donated back to the school, alumni, and then we're also going to pay it forward, and everyone that comes through that vehicle will have their real estate settlement costs paid for and compensated. So no cost to you, the attorney of your choosing or one we recommend, that would be paid for. It's anywhere between if for a seller, it's a little bit less, but an attorney with a buyer's agent, anywhere between $800 and $1,200 in value back to the alumni. And just a note there, every qualifying buyer seller who works through Sell and Keller Williams will get this benefit. So that's that. And then let's see, I think that's maybe just it. We've got, a little note about real estate investing. So we wanted to mention this for Sylvan and I. It's an important part of our business and one that we feel strongly about. As Ashley mentioned, I have a son at NC State right now. He's 18, freshman in the psychology program, and we're working on figuring out buying him his first investment property. We had the fortune of our oldest doing that early on, and he has a couple $100,000 in equity already. He graduated in 2018, I guess. So just on the side there's a few benefits to real estate investing. If you're not ready to buy for yourself yet, Raleigh's a great market. It could be a place that you invest first. You don't have to live here to have a real estate investment here. So if you think you might be headed somewhere else, maybe buy now, live in it a little bit. You can always use it later for a rental, and the rental markets are very strong here. On the next slide, there's a few further notes about the opportunities. It's a wealth building opportunity. You have real estate appreciation. You can have cash flow from the income in some cases, benefit from long-term return, tax benefits, and leverage, which Virginia is going to talk about in a minute. And the challenges are just getting started, lack of resource, understanding the process, and that's the same for a first-time buyer. You are no different than an investor. You can tomorrow buy your first investment property and, you know, have a dozen of them by the time, you know, 10 years rolls around or less. You got to start somewhere, and we're happy to be guides if that's something that anyone's interested in. And the next slide is just a little quick wrap up and a note here. And we'll obviously take questions after Virginia and her partner have a chance to chat. To start a conversation or read more about purchasing your first home, you can message us. There's 2 ways to contact us below, or stick your email in the chat and we'll grab it there. That's a book by Gary Keller. He started Keller Williams. And it's a great section of this book that just talks a little bit more in depth about the process. Something that, 20 minutes on a Zoom call probably won't give you, and it'll be something that you can digest. And we'd be happy to talk further about. So thank you guys for your time and appreciate the attention.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. We will turn it over to Virginia and Brian now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Virginia.
And
This
I'm
is
Brian.
Yes, he's the owner of Raleigh Mortgage Group and also an NC State alumni. So I just wanted him to give like a little brief background on how, Raleigh Mortgage Group came to be and how he got into the mortgage industry from NC State.
Just graduated NC State in 1997 with a sociology degree, and somehow found my way into mortgages. And it seems like you kind of get into, it's like being in the mafia, I guess. And a couple of mortgage companies later, I started Raleigh Mortgage Group in 2001. And we're 21 years later. We are still helping people become homeowners.
Yes. And we're thriving. So, yes, my name is Virginia. Ashley, thank you for the opportunity and letting us be here. So one of the first things I wanted to touch on is what a mortgage broker is. We're a little bit different than a bank. And I know, at least when I graduated college, I had no idea what a mortgage broker was versus a bank. So really the main difference is that we're kind of like a counselor, like an advocate for you. We work for you, not for the bank. We're an advocate for you, for the lender. So we work on your behalf. The more we know up front, the better we can advocate for you, for the lender. So we have multiple lenders that we work with. We can shop multiple programs based on your specific scenario. Each home buying, situation is different and should be treated as such. Finance is something that's extremely intimate. And we like to say, it's getting financially undressed in front of somebody. So we try to make that, as smooth and as not intimidating as it can possibly be. So just with more options, we have more first-time home buyers rather than a, BB&T or Wells Fargo. They certainly have options for first-time home buyers, but not everybody fits into a box that a bank has. They have, overall tighter parameters, lower debt to income ratios. They require higher credit scores, and just don't have as many programs. So that's something we shop on your behalf, like we would be shopping for ourselves or our kids. And that's kind of how we do our business. So just want to touch on the programs that we offer. These are the 4 main programs that first-time home buyers fall into. We certainly have other, programs for investments and things like that. But for a first-time home buyer, we have conventional programs that's what everybody thinks they have to have 20% down. For a first-time home buyer, you actually only have to have 3% down. The minimum credit score is 620. Obviously the higher the credit score, the better it looks. But they're funded by the big mortgage giants, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So they are not government funded, whereas the rest are. So FHA, they have county loan limits. So the county loan limit, for example, in Wake County is $420,000. So that's something that we can dive into if someone has questions specifically about FHA. They require 3.5% down, and then they have a 500 minimum credit score. Under 580, though, requires 10% down. So the lower the credit score, the more risk that's associated from the lender's point of view. So they do require a little bit more skin in the game from you, but they will accept it and we can get a 500 credit score closed. So like Erica said, the sooner you can get into a home, the sooner you can buy your forever home. We also have VA. And that's a program that is specifically for eligible veterans. So we would pull like a certificate of eligibility. You will have to have served in the military or some sort of affiliation with the military. That's 0% down, so 100% financing. There's no minimum credit score for that one, but we do have to have AUS approval. And that's our automatic underwriting system that we run every file through before we give a pre-approval letter for you to begin shopping. And then the 4th one is USDA. This is also government funded. They have income limits county limits. They're only offered in rural areas. So that is a 100% financing, 0% down program. However, it does come with some strings attached. There's a 640 minimum credit score. We have to run it through our automatic underwriting system and the government underwriting system, and it has to pass both. So any, person that's living in the house that has a job over 16, their income gets taken into account. So they really like to, reserve that program for people that need it and not people who just want 100% financing. There's still closing costs associated. Down payment assistance is a whole nother, ball game, and there's strings attached with that as well. I also included, which I can send later as well, the eligibility link. USDA has a ton of stuff online that can help you kind of figure out if the property that you're looking at is even eligible for USDA financing. It's really offered in the rural areas to get first-time home buyers out there as well. It can only be a primary residence for USDA and FHA and VA. And you can go to the next one. So I want to keep it light just because financing can get a little dry and boring. I want to keep it fun. We try to make mortgages fun as they can be. So how to prepare to buy a home is, number one, know your credit score or a ballpark of where your credit score is at. And if you don't have credit, establish credit. Brian has a really fun story about when he was at NC State and how he established credit. So I'll let him tell that story really quick.
Well, I don't know if it's the same since school in the 1900s, but they set up credit card places, and if you filled out a credit card application, they'd give you a pizza. So I don't know how many people have gotten a free pizza and a credit card application.
Yes, so I think that's hilarious. I would take a free pizza. I would get a credit card. Absolutely. So yes, but in all seriousness, establish credit, know your credit score. We have a lot of people that, have the credit monitoring apps, Credit Karma, Experian, things like that. And those are fantastic to have to know a ballpark of where your credit score is at. I would say we typically see about like a 30 point swing, high or low, based on that score. So if it says you have a 700, it could come in anywhere between 730, 670, it just depends. As a mortgage company, all mortgage companies pull the same credit report. There's about 18 different credit models out there. So like if you just went and bought a car last month and they pulled your credit and told you it was a 700, it's not going to necessarily be a 700 with us. So things weigh differently depending on what type of credit you're applying for. So that's extremely important to know where you stand and get pre-approved early. So if, for whatever reason, credit's not where it needs to be, we can give you a game plan of what to do to get it where it needs to be. But it's such on a, individual case by case basis. I don't want to say something that will make everybody's credit score go up because it's not, a very black and white thing. Your personal financial situation is super important to be aware of. I think we find a lot of times people don't even know how much they make gross monthly. So they're like, oh, I get, this on my pay stub, and I think I get paid every 2 weeks. So make sure you're aware of, what you're bringing in, how much your bills are, ballpark of, what you're comfortable spending monthly on a mortgage, things like that. How much wiggle room do we have? If we make, $1,000 a month, we're not necessarily going to have a $900 mortgage payment. We're going to need, there's other bills, groceries, gas, things that go into an account that are off of a credit report. To touch on what Erica was saying, be realistic. Your first home does not have to be your forever home, especially in, a volatile market like we're in with, values increasing and interest rates, volatile, going all over the place all the time. And, we're in a rising interest rate environment. Getting into a house that suits your needs right now is going to get you to your forever home faster. And then the most important thing, obviously, is getting pre-approved. So we can move on to the next slide. So I just wanted to dig a little bit deeper. I think Erica can vouch and say that, your real estate agent doesn't want to waste your time or theirs shopping, without really knowing what you can afford, because it's real easy to fall in love with a $500,000 house. And then you go back to your lender and say, I found the one. And we're like, not going to work. Or, this is what you need to do to get to 500,000. There's always a solution. May not be the solution that you want, but, we can certainly work ways around certain things. But for income, I think it's important that people know that we can use your gross monthly income for your pre-approval. So that's what goes into account. It's not what you get on your pay stub. So when you're filling out your application, make sure you're filling out intelligently, to touch on the job part, with W-2 income, that's pretty straightforward. If, the things to hold off on buying, if you're going to switch jobs, or if you're about to switch jobs and you're switching to something that's more commission based, or, you get a lot of bonus with a very small base, we do need 2 years of commission before we can use it as income. So even if, you're at a W-2 job and you switch to another W-2 job, but it's a lot of bonus and you're like, oh, I make more money now, we'll only be able to use your base until you have 2 consistent years of getting the income. So getting the bonus. Now, if you got the bonus at your prior job and this job, we would be able to average it over the last 2 years and kind of use it to help us out. But it's super important that your income is consistent and that we have a 2-year history. But one good thing for you guys, especially with just graduating, college transcripts count as employment history, as long as your job is in the field that was related to your major. So, if you majored in marketing and now you're like a chef, it would be a little, underwriting would have, maybe need a letter of explanation, that might be a little bit of a stretch, but there's certainly, we can take that as a case by case basis. But if you're a teacher, you're now working and teaching and you've been on the job for 6 months, or you start, within the next 30 days, we can certainly use that income. So we can use future oriented income as well. We actually closed a loan, I think a couple months ago, for an NC State graduate who was starting at Amazon. So, and he hadn't even started yet, and we've got his loan closed. So we can use future oriented income as long as the start date is within 30 days. Your offer letter doesn't have any contingencies like passing a background check or a drug test. It has to have a stated salary and a stated start date within 30 days of closing. So that's a good thing that a lot of people don't know. Assets is huge. Your bank account. The underwriters are going to comb your bank statements line by line. They're going to see how many times you go to Starbucks. They're going to see anything and everything that you do. And it's important to know that they're going to look 60 days back. So even more important to get pre-approved up front is, we need to see what's in the bank account there. And we need to make sure that nothing is really going to change tremendously between now and when you go under contract. When parents are giving gifts, because you can certainly get a gift for your down payment, closing costs, things like that. It either needs to be in your bank account prior to the 60 days, or they're just going to wire it straight to the closing attorney. Once large deposits start coming in on the bank statements, underwriting starts to question where things are coming from, and everything has to be sourced. We cannot use any cash on hand. So for example, if you're a waitress and you get a lot of cash tips, those need to be in the bank account for 60 days for us to be able to use them. Everything has to be seasoned, and they don't want anything that they can't track or paper trail. So a thing that can cause some speed bumps, if you are getting a gift, is, if mom transfers it like 3 days before you go under contract and it's $20,000, well, then mom needs to show her bank statements, and we need to see where it came from. And so, it just keeps it very smooth and simple if it's in there prior to the 60 days, or we just wire it straight to the closing attorney and they just sign a simple gift letter. So that's something that can remove some speed bumps from the loan process and less documentation that you guys have to come up off of. And, they only need to know what they need to know, and that's it. We'd like to keep it simple. And then the final thing, the way that we're able to give you a pre-approval letter is your debt to income ratio. So a lot of people are like, what is that? So that is what you owe monthly versus how much you make. So if you owe $500 a month in liabilities on your credit report and you make $1,000 a month, your debt to income ratio is at 50%. So different programs have different debt to income ratio requirements. Of course, ours are a little more lenient than typical banks, but it really depends. If your debt to income ratio is tight, even if you have like a 780 credit score, we could still go FHA to get you pre-approved and get you going. There's no problem. There's no negative connotation with FHA. It's whatever it takes to get you in your first home. So there's certainly, ways that we can work around debt to income ratio and things like that. We can even pay off liabilities at the closing table if mom and dad want to help you that way, but it's just total liabilities, total gross monthly income. We run your application through a automatic underwriting system, which I mentioned at the beginning, and that gives us a yes, or it gives us a no. It will give us a why. So if it does say no for whatever reason, we'll say, hey, we need a little more in the bank. Depending on the reason, we can give you a game plan. It's never no. And I think that's what people are most scared of, is just being told no or getting denied or being rejected. everybody's situation is different. You know, buying your first home is extremely stressful. It's extremely intimidating. I just bought mine in September, so I'm very aware of how stressful it is. I work in the industry and it was still stressful. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you can buy a house. It might not be right this second, but we'll get you there. So I think, you know, the next step would be, if you're interested, you want to get the ball rolling. My application, you can either scan the QR code, shoot me an email if you want to, you know, general quotes. There's certainly no pressure to go ahead and fill out an application. I'm happy to chat, you know, go deeper into any kind of programs that you're interested in or any more questions. I know finances are obviously very private, so I'm happy to do whatever. That's my contact information if you have any other questions for me. And that is all we have.
Yeah, there's their contact information. I'm just going to leave that up for a little bit. So if y'all want to take a picture of it, you can. And then I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. If any of you would like to unmute, I think we got a couple chats. Oh, I got a couple chats. Yes, you will all have access to the recording. I will send that out afterwards. And then we got a question that I'm going to ask to you both if y'all want to take a stab at it. If I've been in a job for 6 months that has a good base and also pays commission, can my base income still be used for pre-approval?
Absolutely. We would just only be able to use base.
Until you have a 2-year history of receiving the commission as well. But we can qualify you just off base.
Perfect. So that answers someone's question. If any of you who are currently here have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat or come off mute or, oh, great. Or just go ahead and turn your camera on, come off mute, ask a question.
Hey, I had a quick question. So in order to get the pre-approval, should we already know that what's our range, or should we already have the figure in mind, or it's just that we come up with our finances and then you give us the number that, hey, you are pre-approved up till this number, or lower than this number, upper than this?
Absolutely. Either way, a lot of people shoot for the max and we bring them down from there. Or if you have a specific price in mind, I can certainly let you know, like, hey, this is what you asked for. You're more than qualified. This is like well within your range. And this is your actual max. You know, I can structure it that way. Like, how high do you want to go? How high are you comfortable going? Because a lot of people can afford more on paper than they can actually in real life. So, you know, there's other things that go into just general everyday expenses. So absolutely, either way, you would put a purchase price on there, and a down payment that you're comfortable with. And I would take it from there. Either we need to come down a bit, or you're absolutely qualified and we can go higher if you want.